what is needed in all parts of the world, but particularly in Asia, Middle East, Africa, is to understand that the framing of what we saw as economic development, espoused particularly and exported in its most crass form from the United States, but also Europe, is essentially intellectually dishonest. So what we have to do is accept that is a lie, and now be bold enough to innovate and create true value. The problem with the old system is that the architects of that model recognizes value in terms of profit maximization, greater market share, and shareholder value. These are very facile ways of essentially measuring success in the world that we live in. A world that is faced with existential threats, and a world that is unrecognizable from what it was even 40 years ago. You can't adopt business models that were created when the world was 2 billion people. So what we have to do in this part of the world is re-educate, to redesign the way we think about how we govern our societies. These ideas have not been written down, nor are they scripted in Harvard business schools or the institutions in the West. This is not an anti-Western rhetoric. This is simply saying it's a post-Western, non-Western way of thinking. We have arrived at a world where Africa, Asia, Middle East have the most amount of people. That part of the world cannot adopt a model that is so clearly unsustainable. So in my view, the most fundamental reform is first to recognize the intellectual dishonesty of what that neoliberal economic model was, redefine what is progress and growth, abandon such simplistic ideas such as trickle-down economics. It doesn't work. And business leaders, if they're truly business leaders committed to progress, will have to fight the odds and talk about new business models, particularly things to do with how the business models create externalities that can no longer be tolerated by the people, the planet, the ecology that we all depend and survive on. We need leaders who are essentially aware of the consequences of the perpetuation of the current model. You could call it consciousness. This is not taught in business schools, by the way. This is not a religious consciousness that I'm talking about, but on the science and the facts. The science is very clear, be it plastics now essentially, in every part of the human body, right through to chemical pollutants, right through to all the disastrous effects of climate change, biodiversity loss, and of course then the effects of digital technology and its destructive nature, as powerful as it is on society. So you have to have a consciousness. You cannot simply, as a business leader or a leader of any sort, simply be seduced by your job description and your piety towards shareholder value, profit maximization, and your bonus. Let's face it, many of these individuals, just like you and me, but when we are rewarded so handsomely, disproportionately to our contribution to society, many of us will succumb to that. We will leave behind our consciousness, we'll leave behind our morality, we'll just take care of ourselves. So I think the most important thing here is about consciousness. And that consciousness has to be rooted in being able to connect the dots. So you have to have very good knowledge, you have to be very connected to the science, the policy issues. That's a skill you have to learn, because it's a skill based on deep knowledge. It's a skill based on having empathy with what's going on around you.